CatNap. The prototype is his god.
The prototype will save us!
And this is what he does to heretics.
Welcome to Deer Hunt Productions, the channel for all your favorite horror media. I'm DaneCat33, and I'll be explaining the story of CatNap, one of the main antagonists in Poppy Playtime. Like most of the series' villains, CatNap started out as a simple toy. Using the millions made from their Huggy Wuggy toys, Playtime co-invested in the Smiling Critters wave, featuring a group of distinct animal characters. However, CatNap caused a major controversy, with both his plush and his role in the cartoon having issues. Like all the critters, CatNap released a scent when his tail was pulled. But due to a production error, instead of releasing a harmless scent, he ejects the red smoke. This gas was created to put the orphans in Playcare to sleep. Playcare was Playtime Co.'s on-site orphanage below the factory, and the red smoke helped the kids sleep. A disturbing side effect of this was horrific dreams and hallucinations. So imagine parents surprised when their children's CatNap toy caused frequent night terrors. This was quickly covered by news channels and papers, forcing Playtime Co. to recall all CatNap toys and remove him from the marketing. He didn't fare much better in the cartoon. Viewers were disturbed by his lack of dialogue, how distant he was, and how he put everyone to sleep. Playtime tried to backpedal and say the Smiling Critters wanted him to put them to sleep, but that understandably just freaked out kids more. The show was thrown in Playtime's vault, although college students recorded it and passed it around. I guess it's kinda like how a lot of Disney Channel or Cartoon Network shows have an adult audience. Anyway, this disaster tanked the company. Even worse, employees began seeing things they shouldn't have at the factory, and accidents were leading to lawsuits. To save the company, Dr. Sawyer proposed the Bigger Bodies Initiative. This program set out to create giant toys with a consciousness that'd work at the factory. Playtime Co. was desperate to turn things around, so the doctor got to do whatever he wanted. He experimented on the orphans at Playcare. After all, no one would know if anything happened to them. One of the more important orphans was named Theodore Grambell. At the age of 7, Experiment 1006, the prototype, befriended him. Most people assumed Theodore's friend was simply imaginary. But the head counselor at Playcare, Joel Sinclair, thought something was off. Following his lunch break, he caught Theodore digging through his files, saying his friend told him to look for something. Theodore's imaginary friend asking him for specific items had become a recurring trend, and Joel decided to put him in special counseling to further help the seemingly troubled child. In 1989, 2 GrabPack 2.0s and green hand attachments were reported missing, having been stolen by Theodore and the prototype. They used these to open a maintenance store out of Playcare, but Theodore's GrabPack either malfunctioned or he did something wrong, resulting in him being electrocuted, burning his body and stopping his heart. Instead of escaping, the prototype chose to save Theodore, bringing him to the on-site pediatrician Thomas Clark, who did CPR until the paramedics arrived. Theodore survived, but at the cost of the prototype's freedom, as he was apprehended shortly afterward. Later, CatNap was proposed as part of the Bigger Bodies Initiative. CatNap was built upon previous successful methods of mobility, and was planned to be the most sophisticated and capable bigger body. Along with this, Playtime wanted to integrate him into Playcare. Theodore was considered the most qualified child, based on the qualities needed for CatNap. In November of 1990, Theodore underwent a challenging 4-hour procedure, where Dr. Harley Sawyer turned him into CatNap. Following this, he was contained to allow him to adjust to his new body. However, a security team failed to properly lock the cell, resulting in him escaping and murdering 6 people before being subdued by tranquilizer darts. A month later, he was introduced to Playcare. Stella Graber, the head of the orphanage, reported that upon seeing him, half the children were terrified and multiple cried. Later on, most of the children warmed up to him and some even considered him a friend. Dr. Sawyer claimed he met virtually every one of the objectives set out for him, one of which was using his red smoke to put the children to sleep. This of course caused horrible nightmares and hallucinations. It's strongly implied a monstrous CatNap appeared in these hallucinations. Leith Pierre, the head of innovation, said there were issues with his erratic behavior, but that CatNap eventually calmed down. However, his relationship with the prototype concerned Leith. He described CatNap following him around like a lost puppy, but the prototype didn't mind that or he didn't show it. On February 20th, 1991, all of this information was combined into a cross-department report. On November 20th, 1994, Leith Pierre visited CatNap in the prison. At this point, Harley Sawyer had been turned into an experiment himself, so Leith conducted the checkup. He says it's Theodore's 4th year in his new body, and explains how unlike the other bigger body smiling critters, CatNap wasn't getting along well with the kids in Playcare. But now the children love him and his red smoke. He doesn't respond, and Leith mentions his voice box is broken. CatNap suddenly interrupts him. Leith quickly shuts that down, telling him that while he can visit Playcare, CatNap's home is in the prison, and the prototype belongs in the labs. Despite Leith's confidence, on August 8th, 1995, the prototype enacted his revenge, known as the Hour of Joy, a mass rebellion where Playtime Co.'s experiments senselessly slaughtered everyone in the building, and dragged their bodies into the depths to feast on them. On a recording of the event, CatNap can be seen participating in the massacre. And following this, his devotion to the prototype only grew.
In CatNap's eyes, the prototype is a superhero and has saved this place. So CatNap treats him like a god, killing everyone that opposes him.
Weeks after the Hour of Joy, CatNap locked the Miss Delight teachers in the Playcare school. One of them heard him knocking on the door and breathing outside, but he refused to respond to her. She eventually went crazy, murdering all of her sisters and eating their corpses to survive. Later, the school's door was unlocked, and CatNap entered the building. Miss Delight wanted to kill him for trapping her inside, but knew better than to try that. He seemed glad that she was all that remained, and they allied, reporting what they saw to the other and to the prototype. In a VHS tape, Miss Delight recalls CatNap telling her Playcare's children were safe, but she wasn't allowed to see them.
Probably because he knew I'd kill them all.
Following the Hour of Joy, CatNap also captured DogDay, another bigger body smiling critter. He branded him a heretic for not following the prototype. To punish him, his legs were torn off, and he was restrained in the playhouse. Finally, we get to the main event of Poppy Playtime. This game follows a former employee returning to the factory years later to find out what happened to their missing co-workers. At the end of Chapter 2, the player escapes on a train with one of the toys, Poppy. However, she needs them to stay at the factory to help defeat the prototype, so she crashes the train outside of Playcare. Shortly after this, CatNap finds the player, and Chapter 3 starts with them being thrown into a garbage chute. As they escape, they can get a glimpse of CatNap slinking away. The player then makes their way into his domain, Playcare. With the help of a voice from the phone named Ollie, the player sets out to restore power to Playcare so they can redirect the red smoke. They start at Home Sweet Home, but as soon as they enter, the room is filled with red smoke, trapping the player in a surreal nightmare where CatNap stalks the halls. This dream ends with a monstrous Huggy Wuggy crawling out of a TV and attacking the player. They wake up back in the real Home Sweet Home and traverse the building. They narrowly avoid CatNap as he walks down the hall past them. If the player pays close attention, they can notice messages from CatNap carved into the environment. After powering up Home Sweet Home, Ollie directs the player to the schoolhouse, where the previously mentioned Miss Delight lives. She warns the player that CatNap wouldn't like them being here, but that doesn't stop them. At the end of the segment, she chases the player, and as they're escaping, she's crushed by a door. Following this, the player explores the caves, where they witness CatNap hailing the prototype in front of a shrine he constructed. Continuing further, these caverns lead into the playhouse, where the feral smiling critters live. These characters resemble the plush forms, albeit more withered and violent. They follow CatNap to avoid being branded a heretic like DogDay. Ignoring the lesser smiling critter, what's more important for this video is the inclusion of ruined CatNap plushies. CatNap also has a secret lair deep within the building, and interestingly, it's right outside DogDay's prison. The last location the player needs to redirect power from is the counselor's office. The building is filled with red smoke, and in this haze, the player can see a poor toy running and coughing before CatNap snatches it. After activating the last generator, CatNap attacks them, ripping off their gas mask, and the red smoke quickly puts them to sleep. They experience a nightmare where Poppy talks to them as they're transported to locations they previously explored. In the Home Sweet Home area, CatNap can be seen lurking at the end of a hall. When the player awakens from this dream, CatNap speaks to them. After having rerouted enough power from Playcare, the player takes a giant blue battery to the gas production zone. But they're suddenly ambushed by CatNap. He sprays some red smoke into the room, making the player see him as an admittedly goofy looking nightmare creature. He chases the player into an elevator and follows them as they ascend. From here, the player enters a safe room, and Poppy instructs them on how to survive CatNap. They have to use the batteries across the room to power up smoke traps, which stop CatNap from getting inside. The hallways at the front of the room have to be manually blocked by powering the traps with the green hand. As the fight goes on, the player will have to remove the batteries and use them to overcharge a green hand receiver. At the end of the boss fight, the player powers their green hand with the receiver, and before CatNap can kill them, they shoot him with the hand to electrocute him. When the red smoke emerges from his mouth, it sets him ablaze, mirroring his injuries as a child, similarly caused by a green hand. At his lowest moment, the prototype emerges and offers to save CatNap. He praises the prototype before he suddenly stabs into CatNap's mouth, killing him and dragging his body away. This betrayal is pretty unexpected, and a little upsetting considering how much CatNap praised the prototype. While CatNap doesn't appear in Chapter 4, he is mentioned by a couple of characters such as the Doctor and Poppy. There's also living CatNap plushies in the Safe Haven community. It's implied by Mommy Longlegs in Chapter 2 that the prototype adds his victims to his body, so I'm sure we'll see CatNap's corpse on the prototype when we finally face him. But for now, that's all the CatNap content we've got. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, share, and consider supporting us and our future projects. You can do this by buying a super thanks on this video or joining our monthly membership. Becoming a member gets you a ton of cool perks like shoutouts in our videos and description, custom emojis and badges next to your name, the exclusive updates, priority replies to comments, and if possible, you'll be the first to see our newest videos. Thanks for watching, and check out some of our other videos.